illustrated, so
That one will be more artistic. Of the light around. Like an angel.
Okay. Good. So today I'm speaking with Aleksandra Derra, a philosopher, translator, researcher, and a professor of in the Institute of Philosophy and Social Sciences at Nicolaus Copernicus University in Toruń, in Poland. Welcome to CafeBricolage.
Hello. It's really, really happy. I'm really happy to be here. I'm looking forward, a bit excited, nervous. So we'll see.
No, don't be nervous. I'm excited to talk to you, especially because I'm looking forward to hear about your role as a translator of Rosi Braidotti's work. You recently translated one of her seminal book, which is Nomadic
Subjects.
From English to Polish, or was it from French? How you juggle the roles of being a translator, a researcher, a philosopher, when you are translating finished, completed work of someone else's piece. So how do you juggle that?
Yeah, I find this question really interesting because I was never thinking about it. They have to these roles are different, or that they do not collab and somehow they just work together. Of course, it is in a way very stressful when you think about translation, that you have to really do something in a foreign language into which you're translating in such a way that nothing will be lost in translation.
Right.
But I do not think about it in that way.
So in what way do you think about it?
I think that, of course, I have the finished work of someone. Happily, Rosi Braidotti is still alive, so I had the chance to ask her about something when I was not sure. But at the same time, it's always a kind of my version of that book. I'm trying my best to do it in such a way that not to be seen as a translator. But of course, the Nomadic Subjects I have translated so many years ago, and then it was reprinted again in a new version by Rosi Braidotti. We were already speaking about, are we going to adjust Polish version or not? It didn't happen at that time, but she herself as an author was changing a little bit, and I'm sure that I would have changed as well as a translator after so many years.
Right. So when was it?
The originally book is from the 90s, and I've translated it in 2008. I think it was published in 2008 with her short introduction for Polish audience as well. So it was really nice also work with her as an author and try to do my best to just interpret the way she thinks about philosophy, not to change anything, but it's fair to say that somebody else would do it differently than me. So there is a part of me also in that translation.
This is so interesting because my next question was supposed to be, to what extent do you think that translator works as a bricoleur, and to what extent you as a translator work as an engineer who must stick to the original version of the book?
In the process of translating, I would say that in my case at least, it's more of doing both, maybe not at the same time, but when I start translating stuff, I always think that I would like to be very proper and correct about her philosophical views, meaning scientific views. So I need to know a lot of her theory in general, not only the book I'm translating, but also everything she has already done. So I was trying very hard to be familiar with all her work, to understand it better. And then of course, you have certain feeling in reading something in English, and you feel the narrative, how it works. Is it dynamic? Is it boring? Is it very complex? It is more poetic. And Braidotti is mixing a lot of narratives. And what I was trying to do, and that was the fixed thing, to be very fair to her philosophical views as far as I can, and then not to change the poetic way she writes. So try to have it also in Polish version, which is not very easy to do. So in that way, that was that fixed thing you said, you named it, right?
Yeah, the engineer.
I'm starting with that, but sometimes in particular parts of the text I had to really to do some experiments. And for example, there are phrases or parts which are not literally translated into Polish. It's more that you try to keep the mood or the way she writes, that in Polish culture we would say something like that with different words. So even words are not the same. But because it is a philosophical book, so I could do that only in places where she was not very scientific, she was rather poetic. And there's a lot of references in that particular book to the art, to pop culture, and so on. So I was trying to dance there.
That's a nice metaphor. So, because I read, I think in the introduction to that book, that Rosi Braidotti, when she was translating this book from French to English, so herself, so she basically rewrote it, and it was a new book. So this translation probably is some kind of interpretation, and she went all the way.
Exactly. I mean, I really, in a sense, there's a hermeneutical tradition in philosophy, which is challenging at the same time, but I think it's really nice way of thinking about translation, that maybe you're getting more when you read a book in so many different language versions. So that, of course, there's the original one closer to the author, let's say, but then you have different translations which maybe capture something else. So in the end, you have more than less. That's the way I would like to think about translation.
That's interesting. So, what the book Nomadic Subjects is about?
About nomadic subjects.
Which are?
About the idea of being nomadic and what nomadic means in epistemology, for example, in philosophy, but also in theories of subjectivity. And I like the beginning of the book where she quotes and says that it's nice to have roots when you can take them with you. So in a way, she says we always have certain identity, but if this identity is something which doesn't help you to move around, to get something new, to go somewhere, then it doesn't work. In philosophy, I find nomadic subjectivity as something in comparison to nomadic tribes, right? Which they certainly have certain identity. You can say something about them, how they live, what's important for them, and so on. But at the same time, they do not have really houses. They do not have really something fixed once and forever in their life. So maybe that's something different which builds their identity, and for sure that's identity which is changing over time, over places, over relationships. That's something I think in this book she's trying to concentrate on in reference to the contemporary philosophy, which was very critical about fixed identities, and also in reference to feminist tradition.
So can you tell more about this?
In the context of feminist tradition, it was important because, I mean, this is really very basic, but you can say that there is a tradition in feminism which says that in order to emancipate, you have to go away with gender in general. So that
the concept of gender.
the concept, and also the difference between masculinity and femininity, because then the culture is the following, that the masculinity will always be the premier one, the most important one, and so on. So maybe when we give up and say, let's better speak about persons, not male and female persons. Then maybe we'll catch the idea of being free and so on. But Braidotti is in the other camp of feminism, I would say. It's something called difference feminism, where she says that it is really important to underline the differences. And we have to keep the differences. So let's not skip the femininity and masculinity, we should understand it in a different way. And she says that the difference between femininity and masculinity can be analyzed on so many different levels, that you can start from the difference between male and female, and then you can go to underline the differences among women. We can be different. We can not only coming from different time in historical sense, but also can be white, we can be other color, we can come back from, we can be raised in a different culture and so on and so forth. But what is important also for her was that there is another layer of differences within you yourself, meaning that 10 years ago I was a different person. I was a different female when I was having a small baby, and now when my son is an adult, I'm a different person. So she was constantly saying that we cannot really say that my identity is fixed. It's something I can say at the moment who I am, and I can feel very strongly about it. But philosophically speaking, it is not fixed once and forever. In the context of feminism, it's not so easy, because when the feminist is not just a bank of theories, but also kind of political agenda, that you want to gain something politically, you need kind of fixed ideas to go to the outside. And the framework, which you cannot say, okay, we don't know who women are, and then go and fight for women's rights. Right? So,
or even the word women can be questioned by some.
Exactly.
Whether we use this label or whether
So it's philosophically challenging, but also at the same time really, really interesting. And I like the metaphors she's using, and she's also using a lot of examples from pop culture and art. So it really works well when we look at the examples. So she's not only dealing on this abstract level, she's also giving a lot of examples how to do that.
Fixed identity is something that provides you with continuity. What are the roots for that nomadic subjectivity?
Actually, I think that when we go back, and this is just me reading Braidotti, so I'm not sure that she would agree with that actually, but when you go back to the metaphor she starts with nomadic tribes, she would say that they have a certain amount of memory about who they are and how they deal with stuff. But it does not mean that they are fixed once and for all by surroundings, for example, by, I would say, the relationships among them, because it is also changing. Some people are leaving, some people are being added to the group, and so on. So I think the continuity still will be based on that thought that you remember what you were doing in the past. But it will not be based on something which philosophy was also always calling the nature of a person, the nature of human being. That's something she would like to deconstruct. And she's always using that phrase that we are someone, but in the process of beginning someone. So we are always dynamic person. And it's misleading also in science that we are done once and for all. And as you said, of course, we use those names in language which kind of mislead us, that when I say, oh, I'm a woman, and then it's obvious who I am, but that's not true.
It's true. That is not true.
No. Even if you say about me, I'm a philosopher, and so, okay, explain what does it mean. Different philosophers, they will say different things, right? So in that sense, it's already nomadic. It's not the same. And of course, we have something in common. For sure, we share the same tradition of reading, for example. But we would look at philosophy and its role in a different way.
That's why I always try to introduce people with the labels, identities that they, or roles that they put somewhere online or in.
Sure.
Because and who knows what it means to them.
But I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
just sorry that I'm
Yeah.
asking the question now, but I always think I have this feeling always. Of course, I have these biograms on the websites and so on, and people presenting. But
Yeah.
always when they present it, I feel a kind of I don't know how to put it, what that feeling could be named, but it's a kind of, I'm really surprised that that's my identity.
Because maybe, like with your nomadic subjectivity, you already are in a different place, you know.
Maybe, but additionally, I think what matters is that when you're presenting, for example, lecture or something, the lecture itself and its dynamic and relationship with people who are listening to you is more important than me being professor of university or something like that. And that's why I find it always not disturbing, but something, okay, it has to be said. Okay, I understand, that's the culture we have, but somehow I do not feel it's me.
So do you think that it's a reflection of nomadic subjectivity, that's kind of like approach to like identities or labels that you somewhere put in the virtual space and someone else is using? But do you think that this is the reflection, your reaction to that?
Yeah, it is. And also look, it's not only Braidotti, but there is such a huge part of feminism which is trying very hard to go away from identity theories, from identity politics.
To go away,
not to I mean, the proposal of nomadivity is one of the proposals how to do that, because I think that we would have to learn how not to label ourselves, which is politically also problematic and used to be in the previous times, as we know from the history of our culture, but to concentrate on something we do. And then use more verbs than nouns. Okay, but I mean, it's not natural in our languages, in our Western languages, that you would rather say what you're doing at the moment. For example, I'm reading a text or writing a book, or I'm busy visiting Australia or whatever, but I'm not a philosopher, not a professor in that sense.
So how would that look like? So what I would have to say to present it in the Rosi's way, like, what I would say, have to say about you.
Sometimes she's trying to do that when you listen to some of her lectures at the university. Of course, she's again presented by someone in that very
similar way.
Yes, similar way. I'm not criticizing that way. That's what I usually do with other people as well. But she's trying to say, okay, at the moment I work on something, or I'm very happy because I had a really nice morning with people at the coffee table and we were discussing this and that. So she's more trying to catch the moment, who is she at the certain moment. But of course, on the academic level, that's not what counts, right? What counts is the names and so on. So it's not so easy to change. I think it's a proposal which is very theoretical one, and she's very much aware of that fact.
So maybe I would introduce you as Aleksandra Derra, who had a presentation on Monday on going beyond feminism and beyond binarism. And
that would be a trial. How to do it.
Aleksandra, who visited Jervis Bay yesterday and enjoyed.
And has very strange hair because of the wind.
Yeah, and we also and we met at Martin Place and had coffee, and now we are here to have that conversation at Macquarie University city campus. How are you?
Exactly. And we've started from that because I was excited and a bit nervous. Will I be able to do that in English in a proper way and so on? But we can try. We can actually play with it. We can try to do it. But look, we have to think about it first, because it's not like a natural, mechanical thing to do. And of course, Rosi Braidotti is saying we have the model of societies which are based on identities. And at the same time, those societies, because of that, partially, were also very sexist, xenophobic, and racist, and so on, and ethnocentric as well, and Europocentric, and anthropocentric, and so on. And look at the tribes or societies which are nomadic. what matters is how they cope with life at the moment, who is doing what. So these doings are also more important than who you are. You have a certain role at a certain point of time, and